Good day, everyone. This will be just a short tutorial on how to use Google Classroom as a learning content management system, or LCMS for short. So, LMS or LCMS is really a construct that allows institutions or instructors to upload and manage some content like educational content online and then share that content with other instructors or administrators. That could be, or in the early days of LCMS, that really was student records or other documents that needed to be shared and accessed easily. But with the advent of online learning, they became the means of creating an online space for learning instead, and not just managing the educational content online. Essentially, I like to think about a LMS or LCMS as the online version of the school that I'm a part of. So everything that you would normally be able to do on the school's campus, you're able to do that using the LMS online, whether that's going to class or conversing with peers, or submitting an assignment or reaching out to a student. So when you enter Google Classroom, for example, you've just walked onto the school's campus. Essentially, when you create a weekly folder with the lecture notes inside and assignments and some interactive element, then you have just walked into the classroom, you've begun instruction, and you have given the students some guide or instruction as to what is to come next or what they should be doing for that particular week. The added benefit of using Google Classroom is that it is free, one, and it affords institutions a powerful set of tools that are on par or even supersedes that which many LCMS companies are offering for hefty sums to institutions. Google Docs, for example, is integrated within that system since Google Classrooms is from Google. You have the live video conferencing and screen sharing, plus other synchronous and asynchronous tools, and I would like to show you what that looks like. Essentially, to get to Google Classroom, the easiest way, if you're using the Chrome browser, is to use the URL section at the top and simply type in Google Classroom, or you could go to google.com alternatively and type in Google Classroom within the search engine space. The first link that comes up will take you to the product page for Classroom that Google has provided for giving information to potential clients who would like to use Google Classroom. The second link will take you to Google Classroom directly. Once you click on that, it takes you to the Classroom space. And the Classroom space is one that is clean, it's neat, it's not crowded or cluttered. In order for you to create a classroom or join a classroom, depending on the role that you are currently playing, there is a plus icon to the top right. You would click on that. If you were given a code, you would click on join class and then enter the code that you were given. If you're creating a class as an instructor, then you would choose create class, and that gives you a set of options to create the class accordingly. So this might be Tuesday um, math 101, for example, section 3, and of course the subject is math or trig. And if there is a particular room that could be included here, or if it is simply an online course, you could include that and then hit create. Once you have created your course, it the interface will look like the one on the screen at the moment. The code is listed on the home page for instructors to send to students for them to join the class. And at the very top, you'll find four essential navigation components that allows students and instructors to navigate the course effectively. The first is the current, which is like a home page, and this essentially streams all the activity within that course. So students interacting in a discussion, for example, assignments being posted by the instructor, for example, all of that is posted here. It can become a little bit crowdy or cluttered, and so it is advisable that students, whether they're using a laptop or tablet, um, they should be clicking on the classwork tab at the very top quite regularly in order to view their weekly notes and assignments. And then the third option is the people option that allows instructors to add students to the course. You would do that by clicking on the invite students link here. You can also invite a co-teacher or an observer to the course if needs be by using that add icon at the top as well. You would type in the student's email. You could essentially copy and paste that from a list or type it in directly. Student at gmail.com, for example. And of course, there is a student at gmail.com email that was created. You would hit invite, and that would invite the student to the course where they would not need to use the code. But if students are having issues, then they would use the code accordingly. I'd like to show you how you go about creating this space. Essentially, when you're creating an online class, the goal is not to create assignments and lecture notes for students to go on and read on their own. Because it is online and in the absence of face-to-face instruction, engagement becomes really, really important. And so instructors have to think about the ways in which students will be engaged and remain engaged throughout the course. And that's where this create option comes in, because it allows you to create the different elements that are needed for that. So, for example, you could choose to create some question that um, allows students to ponder on a particular topic or think about that topic, to reflect on that topic throughout the week, or to simply problem solve or think about some phenomenon and respond to it, and then have them converse and collaborate on that same assignment. It has to follow some structured or sequenced format the way it would in the real world classroom, where you would have the base, you would have your instruction that's scaffolded each week, and so forth and so on. The create option here allows you to do that accordingly. In order for it to be organized, we want to start with creating a topic first of all. You can think about the topic as the classroom or the folder. That's the main element that gives students some indication of where they are each week. So a topic, for example, is a major topic, or a week, or a session, or a month. In our example case here, let's say this is week one, or it could be a date, or a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, depending on what the needs of your particular course are, right? I'm going to call this week one, for example, and hit add. And of course, within week one, I would now need to create the different elements, right? So I could create lecture notes for students. The way in which I would do that is I would click on create once more, and material is what I'm looking for here. The material option allows me to simply insert some material, and I decide what that material is. So I'm going to call this week one lecture notes, and the description is where I would give students some explanation about week one lecture notes, or I would guide them to finding some truth. I might give them instruction uh, for them to find the information online on their own in some sort of hunt, or I would allow them to uh, visit YouTube or some other resource that will essentially allow them to construct learning for that week. It's not necessarily a case where I have to type in the entire lectures for the week. I could simply guide students to finding that information on their own using the instructions or descriptions here. I could also add different resources to this lecture notes tab. So I could add a file that is within Google Drive. For example, I could add an external link to some web page. I might have a PDF document that I'd like to add here, or even a video that can help to stimulate students' interest or give further clarification and explanation to the lecture notes that I provide here. Once I'm done with that, the next key is to ensure that I assign it to some topic. The only topic that I have created so far in this example course is week 1, and so I would click on week 1 to add it to that course. If I have different courses, I could choose the different courses to add this content to. So essentially I could create the content, the material once, and add it to a number of different courses. Once I'm done with that, I would hit post, and my week 1 lectures now appear under my week 1. I'm also going to create an assignment for the week. An assignment essentially allows students to submit to a Dropbox once they're done following the instructions to that assignment. So I'm going to call this assignment 1, watch the related video, reflect on the lecture notes for the week, and research several other elements and post your findings here. Once I'm done with that, I'm gonna add a video here just for further clarifications for students. So that I'm not only giving them some instruction for the assignment, but I'm giving them additional resources as well. I'm going to choose a due date so that students can see on the stream page the assignments that are coming up. I would do that on the right. The tools are a little bit different from the materials given that this is now an assignment. So the due date, I'm going to set that due date for learners. I could essentially put a time in there. I'm going to leave that as is, and of course, because our course should be organized so that students aren't lost in this space of eternal clutter, we want to ensure that we are choosing a week or topic or session for each element that we create within that online course. Note that here you can also create a new topic as well. If you created an assignment or a material before creating the topic, which has happened to me several times, you could simply create a topic right then and there and then assign accordingly. Once you're done with that, hit assign, and you will find that your assignment is now under the week 1. I'm going to create another topic, sorry, so that you can begin to see the organizational structure. Creating that new topic now creates this large week 2 topic for me, and it places that at the top of the screen. You're able to click and drag that down, so you can drag your elements where they belong after creating them accordingly. And then we continue to use that create function to create the different elements of the course as time goes on. Now, the engagement part of it for an online course is really important, and that's where the question comes in. With a question, you're able to ask students some critical question that allows them to think about some topic critically, to ponder on that, and then respond and interact with each other throughout the week. You would do the same as you would for an assignment. You would give students some instruction based on that assignment. And then once you're done, you have the option once more of adding additional resources, adding that to a particular week or topic, and then ensuring that students have access to it by hitting the ask or post or save option here. It is Google, so everything is saved automatically. However, if you don't click on the ask or post or save, depending on what the item is that you're creating, students will not be able to see it. So you need to click on that always. And you can begin to see now the structure or organizational structure of your classroom. And two final elements for Google Classroom is or are the assignment option that allows you to create a quiz using Google Forms at the end of some instructional event, or maybe even at the beginning. You are able to create some summative or formative assignment using this quiz option within Google Forms. There are several tutorials online, or if persons need help with that, I can create another tutorial for the quiz option also. But that's also an affordance within Google Classrooms that you can add to each week, or at the end of the week, or the beginning of the week as time goes by. And finally, to add a live conference within Google Classrooms, the Google Calendar is needed here. You would click on that, Google Calendar, and essentially what you're doing here is you're adding some event to the calendar based on a particular time that you'd like students to be a part of that conference. So I'm going to click on the time block that I'd like that event to happen. I'm going to choose more options, and I'm going to call this first live conferencing, for example. And the add conferencing option here is available depending on the account that you're using. If it is one of the free accounts from Google, this might just be Hangouts. If it is a part of some suite, then you get the Hangouts Meet option. You're able to set the email option and so forth and so on. This gives you a live conference that you can copy and paste and send to students accordingly. So once I've done that, I'm going to copy the information that is here. I'm going to save it to ensure that it is saved. And then within the class space, I'm going to create a material option. Actually, it might be better for me to create actually I'll use a material since we have the same affordances underneath. So for the add option, I'm going to create a link here um, and add the link that I had created when I did the live conferencing. I'm going to copy and paste that in here, and then the information that I had copied before prematurely, I will copy that in the description field so that students get additional options if they're having issues with the link here. If it is not working for them, they also have the option of copying and pasting it on their own, or calling in, and so forth and so on. I'm going to call this the first live conference. I'm going to assign it to some week, and of course it has to be a part of some class. and then hit post, and that will essentially make your live conference a part of one of your sessions. When students um, are ready, or when that date comes, students can simply click on the first live conference to join that conference with their instructor and their peers accordingly. The good thing about the conference is that it allows um, instructors to not only record what transpired during that meeting, but it allows instructors to give a live meeting, share their screens, explain to students in person, and clarify for them those concepts that they had trouble understanding before. Students are also able to do demonstrations and share their screens, and the applet itself is automatic because it spans from one person to the next based on who is speaking. It's almost like having a live cameraman go around the room from person to person as each person is speaking. So you have that within the Google Classroom space as well. Essentially, most of what transpires within the classroom space is learned as you go about creating and navigating that classroom space. As students complete assignments, their grades will show up in the grades tab. They're able to access their peers from here, they're able to chat as well, and they're able to access their classroom space. So that concludes the tutorial. Um, to recap, it's simply this space that allows us to make the transition from the physical classroom to the online classroom, and house our materials, reach students, grade students, provide them with the same type of quality instruction that we would within the online space, and then give them feedback accordingly. It is important that there is some interaction in there. Students can interact throughout the week because the engagement part of it is key. It is important that we're not just putting assignments in there, or placing links to websites, or just giving them lecture notes to read. It's important that they're engaged each week in some activity where they're constructing their own learning accordingly. Much of that might include research. Some of it will include interactive questions where they post, they work together within Google Docs, um, or they're simply interacting in a forum type throughout the week. But the engagement part of it is important. Thank you, and that's it.